Thank you, Claudia, for the beautiful meditation. Oh, it's really, really nice to be here with you this morning and just appreciating the feeling I get of being here like I felt for so many years at Christ Unity. I feel the consciousness in the room. And knowing I was going to be speaking here today, I've been reflecting recently on one of the early Unity teachers that had such an influence on me. Longtime minister, Reverend Eric Butterworth. I didn't actually get to meet him, but his book, Discover the Power Within, was transforming for me in my life. And I remember in that book how he spoke of Jesus. And he said, Jesus was the person who opened a window in the wall. A window through which we can see the spiritual dimension of life. Looking beyond just what we can see and touch and feel around us. To remember that truth that lies behind all that is. And he talked as well about how, with time and centuries going by, that window got kind of dusty and opaque, kind of cobwebby. And people forgot that the point of the window was to look through it. And they began worshiping the window, missing the point. But he reminds us of the reality that lies behind all things, and that we can tune back into that by using our prayer, our unity prayer. Affirmative prayer has been such a powerful thing for me as I've get to practice with it through the years. And so I'm thinking of it today as my spiritual Windex. If I ever need to clean up my window, it's right there for me. And Dr. Emily Cady speaks to this as well in her work. In her book, Lessons in Truth. And in fact, there she says, desire in the heart for anything is God's sure promise, sent beforehand to indicate it is ours already. I've got to say that again. Desire in our hearts for anything is God's sure promise sent beforehand to indicate that it is ours already. And then she says, affirm your possession of the good that you desire. And isn't that what affirmations really are? They're affirming the truth of what is, regardless of how things may appear in the moment. They remind us of that spiritual dimension that's always providing for our every need, want, and desire. I've got to say that I have had a lot of fun practicing with affirmations. Now, at first, I thought it was some kind of magical formula. You know what I mean? Anyone else, when you first get starting, you think, oh, this way I can have this, I can have that. And with time, what I realized is that I may not know the exact outcome of this affirmation, but it will start to shift what I expect for myself and allow God to show up in my life in wonderful ways. So I have a number of favorite affirmations. You probably do too. When you're at some point in your life and you just got to pull one out of your hip pocket, just to remind yourself. And one of my favorites, and sometimes when people ask me how I'm doing, this is one I use. I say, I'm grateful. Because that's the truth. You know, even if I've got a little something going on down here or up here, I am grateful for all the blessings in my life. I'm grateful for health and wholeness. I'm grateful for vitality and this blessed experience I'm having every day. And I have moments too, maybe you do also, when you're getting ready to head out of the house or travel or undertake something that you feel a little vulnerable, like you're not sure how you're going to get from here to there? One of my favorites is like a short version of the prayer for protection. I am safe and protected, divinely guided and directed. Would you join me in that? I am safe and protected, divinely guided and directed. And I often like to follow that up with this one. I am happy, healthy, and having fun. How about if we say that one together too? I am happy, healthy, and having fun. One of my favorites. I like the fun part. And you know, for my earliest spiritual teachers, including Phil and Dorothy, told me about the power of attaching the words I am to my affirmations. And that there is a basis in ancient scriptures for that. In the Hebrew scriptures, we find the story in Genesis 3 of Moses being out and tending the flock and seeing a bush that's on fire. It's on fire, but it's not being consumed by the fire. And he goes to investigate it, and God speaks to him through that bush and said, take off your shoes, for you're standing on holy ground. Now Moses was a little surprised. He didn't expect that. But nonetheless, he started having this dialogue with this bush through which God was speaking. And God had the audacity to tell Moses to go to Egypt, and for Moses to tell the Pharaoh to release the people he had enslaved. Well, Moses was a little taken aback out there with his flock, and he asked God, he said, who should I tell them sent me? And God said, I am who I am. Say to them, I am has sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my title for all generations. I am is the name of God within us for all generations. Another one of the ministers who I didn't get to meet, but had a great influence on my spiritual development and unity, was Reverend William Fisher. Do any of you remember his book called Alternatives? It was a wonderful book. I picked it up when I first was starting to study at Unity Village. And he took all these different traditional concepts from Christianity, and he proposed other ways to look at them. And one of the terms that he took from Christianity is the word sin. Now, not everybody got the benefit of growing up in Unity. And for some of us, that can have kind of a sting behind it. But he started talking about his childhood in the book, and he said that sin was usually about something with dinner time and not finishing what was on his plate, or swearing, or sexual behavior. Not that we're supposed to talk about that in church, but and he talked about this idea of swearing or profanity. And he said in the time that he was growing up, the most profane words you could say came right out of the New Testament. And then he talked about our culture at the time he was writing the book. And he said, a lot of people are very quick to use swear words. And he said, that may not be the greatest sin. In fact, the greatest sin that really takes the Lord's name in vain may be attaching our I am statement to something that is not of God, to something less than the divine blessings that were promised. Right use of our I am statements. It's an adventure. I heard the story of a little boy not long ago, and it made me smile. And this little guy was so excited. He loved baseball, and it was his birthday. And he'd gotten a ball and a bat, and he couldn't wait to run outside in the yard. And he was so thrilled, he said, "I'm going to be the best baseball player in the world." And he smiled at that baseball, and he threw it way up, took a big swing, and plop, it hit the ground. Well, he picked up that baseball, and he told that baseball, "I'm going to be the best baseball player in the world." And he threw the ball up, and he took a big swing, and plop. And then all of a sudden, he realized something. And he picked up that ball, and he said, "I'm the best pitcher in the world." The power of those I am statements. You never know what fun thing's going to happen next. So I don't know about all of you, but even as a Unity student, I've had some ups and downs through my life. Anyone else here? Yeah, ups and downs. I really got so much out of being able to regularly attend the Sunday services at Christ Unity. And it wasn't long after I started doing that I was moving to Modesto for my career. And when I first got there with that job, things were going really well. It felt like a very progressive law firm that I was working with, and I was very excited, and we went along for some years, and then we hit a point where it just seemed like we were on different tracks, and I knew that something needed to shift. And an opportunity came along. You probably remember when Reverend Catherine Ponder was traveling and celebrating 50 years of Unity ministry. And I came back that Sunday to Christ Unity and heard her speak, and I was so inspired. And I felt so blessed by receiving one of her books from her that day. And the book I took home was Open Your Mind to Receive. And I was just hungry for the stories in there and the examples and the affirmations. And building on what she had in there, I added to it and created a new affirmation for myself. And it was this: I am grateful for wonderful work with wonderful pay, where I get to serve with wonderful people in a wonderful way. And I was working with that affirmation every day, and things started opening up for me. It was so exciting. And I ended up starting to work at a different office there in Modesto, where I got to meet my beloved husband, Bob. And I really enjoyed the people there and what I was learning and what I was doing. But you know that divine discontent that can come into your life? And it shifts and it moves in you, and you know that change is happening. Well, that started happening for me, and I pulled out that affirmation. And I started working at wonderful work, wonderful pay, wonderful people, serving in a wonderful way. And something really interesting started happening. I started getting phone calls from people who said, "Margie, won't you start your own practice? I have this case I want you to work on." And these phone calls kept coming in. It wasn't what I thought about. I thought I'd be working for someone else with wonderful pay, but no. And I've got to tell you, I did. I started my own practice, and I had 7 of the most rewarding years that I had in all those 17 years that I was practicing law in California. And it was a blessing. It was wonderful to bless people and to bring what I knew about unity into my work. And in practicing the principles through that time and using that affirmation again and again, something started shifting again. And I knew it was time for me to go to school at Unity Village and become a minister. Well, that was a big change from having your own law practice. And I wasn't sure exactly how that was going to go, because I was going to Unity Village and Bob decided he wasn't going. And so we were flying back and forth, and I was going through school, and I was working my affirmation. Wonderful work with wonderful pay. Wonderful people serving in a wonderful way. Bless you. And I was invited to work at Silent Unity. I was one of those people who answered the phone saying, "Silent Unity, how may we pray with you?" And it was a profound and beautiful time of being invited to pray with people for exactly the thing I needed prayer for myself that day. Happened over and over again. And right before I was ordained, my husband Bob decided he was going to come to school. Wonderful! Yay! Now what am I going to do? And out came my affirmation. Wonderful work with wonderful pay. Serving wonderful people in a wonderful way. I started my alternative ministry, Unity in Action. I started traveling a 5-state area around Missouri, being invited to the ministries there. And before I knew it, I was invited to serve as director of credentialing, overseeing ordination for Unity. And I loved that work. I got to know so many people from Unity all around the country and around the world. I loved it. It was wonderful work with wonderful pay, with wonderful people serving in a wonderful way. And the time came in that position where I knew we needed to return to California. We needed to be closer to family. And Bob and I both wondered, what are we going to do when we get there? Out came the affirmation. And we weren't even here a month. And I got a phone call from the West Central Region Board asking me to become a member. And the invitations started coming in for Bob and I to travel and speak at churches. And we've been having so much fun. We love what we get to do. And it's so fun being here with all of you. You know, it's amazing when we have those affirmations that just become a part of us. What can open up in our lives? There was a little girl. She was born in 1916 in upstate New York. And when she was young, her family moved to the Northwest. And she always had this spark. People were just attracted to her. And she, one time she was out with her family and she saw a man sitting on the curb who really looked down and out. And she went and she walked over to the man and she said, "God will heal you. God will." She just knew, and she spoke the words. And she lived her life on that basis, and she was having some fun. But at age 17, something happened. She was hospitalized with tuberculosis. She was not able to walk. And laying there in that hospital bed, she was losing hope. But one day, a man came to see her, and he said, "Your thoughts and your words make a huge difference in the health you have in your body. And from that day, she decided she was only going to say nice things about her body. And she got to go home. She walked again, but she also learned to dance. And that was fun. Even though the tango was a little naughty, she loved it. And she got to go to a lecture one day, a lecture by Charles Fillmore. And she heard him talk about things in a way she'd never heard before. And she was so excited, she ran up to him afterwards, and he was really impressed by her. And he said, "You know what? If you move to Unity Village, we'll give you a job." Well, after that, she could not be stopped. She made her way to Unity Village. The Fillmores found a home for her close to where they live. And she worked there for many years. Eventually, she was ordained as a Unity minister. And she blessed so many thousands, tens of thousands of people over the years. You probably know I'm talking about Dorothy Pearson. One of my favorite affirmations from her is, "I am a spiritual being, living in a spiritual universe, governed by spiritual law." Join me in those words. I am a spiritual being, living in a spiritual universe, governed by spiritual law. Knowing the truth, speaking it for herself and others. And her last words on this planet, she sang them. Happy am I, I'm rich, I'm happy. Happy am I, I'm rich today. Happy am I, I'm rich, I'm happy. Happy am I, I'm rich today. Oh, happy am I. Oh, happy am I. Oh, happy am I. I'm rich today. Living the truth, speaking the truth to the end, carrying her beautifully into that next new beginning. What a way shower. What a light giver. And I'm grateful that remembering this together today, we get to be that light giver in our own lives, our own families, and in the larger community. This is who we are. This is who we've come here to be. I'm so grateful. We're making the journey together. Bless you, my friends.